It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. So this is the second part of my review on the HuB profile keycaps. So a couple of days ago, just under a week or so, I received the actual keycaps. They came in a very purple packet, thanks to Evan from the Van Keyboards. He was very generous enough to actually send me the set of 3D printed prototypes that Man of Interests had actually reviewed a while ago, and said, hey, if you want to give it a try, it's enough for a 60% set, and of course I said yes. Now, last video I had a look at each of the actual profile rows. I had a look at the general shape of the profile and the 3D printed caps themselves, but I didn't actually put them on a keyboard. Since then, I've fitted them to a keyboard, to my IKEA chopping board mounted GH60 keyboard with cherry greens on it, and I've spent a bit of time typing on it and just getting accustomed to how they look, how they feel. Now, I will say that even though I will probably do a bit of a sound sample from this, this will not be a representative sound sample simply because the 3D printed material is not necessarily going to sound the same as the injected molded plastic of these final keycaps. I've been sick all week, so yeah, my head's still a little bit spinning. Not quite that kind of sick, but not fully there. But I didn't want to delay doing this, so that's why I'm doing this video, because I know a lot of people have been hanging out for it. So let's talk more keyboards. Switching over, this is my GH60 that I mentioned. The only reason why I have no caps lock mounted here is because it was a stepped caps and my switch is not in that particular position. I couldn't have been bothered desoldering and moving it and resoldering it, so I've just left it off. It doesn't, of course, affect the way that the profile feels and looks, because normally for me, I don't use caps lock. I don't reprogram it to be control or anything else like that. Of course, if you do, then that's a personal preference, and of course the keycaps and profiles would have to match. First and foremost, as a blank set, it looks pretty neat. We do have a little bit of rotation that's visible in some of these keys. A little bit of it is kind of the McRib effect. Some of it isn't, but I had a chat with Evan about it, and because they're prototypes, because they're 3D printed, and they're not exactly printed at the highest level, they're not resin printed, there is obviously going to be some limitations on the quality of these caps. But for representing the overall feel, the profile shape, and everything else, I think they do a really good job. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what they look like rotated side on. Now, last time we had a look at the individual profiles, and this time you can have a look to see what it kind of looks like side on. Now, before anybody starts jumping up and down, yes, I am aware that the bottoms of these keycaps are not lining up. I had a really good discussion with the locals on the Australian Discord when I started showing this off after I mounted them on my keyboard, and they had some concerns about the fact that these bottom edges here don't actually line up flush, and you'll see how it's at a bit of an angle. But you'll also notice as I push with this pen, or if I wiggle it, I can actually get quite a lot of rotation. Some of that is because it is a slightly larger key. It's not a 1U over here. And also, for example, that is stabilized keys, and so is the backspace. So you can see the stabilizer is actually doing a lot of wobble here. But once again, after talking to Evan about it, he is aware that these prototypes do that, but it's also a quality issue from 3D printing. What you would hope is in the actual final production run, you would not see this kind of artifact, but we don't know until it actually happens and gets manufactured. What is really interesting about this set, and it's part of, I suppose, something you have to get used to, is the fact that there is actually a negative angle to it. So what I mean by negative angle is positive angle, such as an SA sculpted, is that the bottom row will have a curvature and end up higher on the top row, but negative angle is when you slope away from the user. Now, this top row here is very similar to a SA row 3, but as you go into 2, 3, and 4, you'll see they have a slope which goes away from the user. So it's got a bit of a negative slope. And then the 5th row is actually quite flat, very much like a DSA style profile. Of course, if we go around to the back, you're not going to see anything because it's pretty uniform. And in regards to the keycap heights lining up, it's fairly reasonable for that profile. If we go to the other side, you'll see the reverse of that profile, and you can see that the lining up's actually not too bad for rows 4 and 5. 3 is kind of missing, and 2 to 1 is a little bit higher. And if we just go around to the front, if the camera will focus, hello. All right, maybe it doesn't want to do too much focusing there. It's probably going to focus up on this top edge. You'll see the actual spacebar is slightly tilted, but that's related to loose stems rather than anything else. And that's what the tape was for, because I believe HuB had put a bit of magic tape to try and make the stems a little bit tighter fitting so they wouldn't pop out like that. I haven't bothered simply because I don't tend to hit my space bars on the edges where the stabilizers are, so hitting it in the middle seems to be okay. It's not really debouncing anywhere like that. So that's the general look of it. You can still see maybe what I was talking about, how there's those ridge lines, the circular lines, which come from the 3D printing. What I find really interesting is that the position of these 3 lines indicate the actual center of the cap, because they have a spherical surface to them. So in that top row, what I was talking about is it's very like SA row 3, because the center is actually the center of that spherical curve. And then as you move down, it starts to go up, which is away from the user, and it gets even further up and all the way up to that edge. So the curvature changes dramatically, because as you get to the 4th row, you're actually looking at the sort of the curvature up towards the back of a sphere rather than the bottom of the sphere. And that's very evident by looking at the concentric circles. So how did I go with typing on these? Firstly, because they were blanks, it did throw me off a little bit, but you know, after typing with them for about half an hour, I kind of got into the rhythm with them. I was able to chat on Discord and on Slack and not have a problem, because it was just casual typing. Wasn't really doing any numbers, so I didn't get to really test out that number row a lot. And without having a numpad on the side, I couldn't really get a numpad experience. That said, I had no problems whatsoever in using the set. Typing on it casually, so you know, this is a keyboard review of the HuB Keycap profile set. I do not feel anything at all about this keycap profile hindering my typing. It's quite comfortable. I already said that it was not uncomfortable during my review, because I didn't really have the ability to have it at the height that a keyboard would have it at, and by putting it on here, my fingers resting on it, they are being gently supported. I wouldn't say that they're hugging, kind of like how an SA or a scoop tends to do it, because it's not as deep, but there is that support. By having this back end higher, I feel like the actual balls of my pads, they get that sensation of a little bit more pressure. It's not like an empty space there, because it's there. It's actually kind of like being held up. It's just there's that little gentle touch right there, giving it a nudge. And I don't mind that at all. The negative angle falling away, I can barely feel it at all. There's no real discernible difference to a flat profile type of key like a DSA, or even the normal angle on a cherry kind of keycap. Not for me. Now, if you're much more sensitive about it than I am, it might be an issue for you. So, you know, I was doing a bit of typing on it and I had no problems with this whatsoever. And then one of the guys on Discord said, do my fingers hit the bottom of the row above when I move up a row? And I thought, no, but why would it? And it's a really valid question, because having this higher back and this negative angle away from you, which you can see there, you actually now have a clearance requirement, because if the front of the keycap is lower than the back of the keycap above it, compared to say an SA profile where the front of the keycap is still either the same height or lower than the higher profile above it, if you're the type of person that barely clears your fingers from the keys or rests so lightly that you can drag up and down, like say on laptop or chiclet keyboards, you will have a problem. Because, and as I'll demonstrate, if my fingers are here resting and I move them forward, they will actually hit and be stopped by that top lip of that keycap. Okay, so if I use, say, just a bit of paper or something, if I've got something small and loose. All right, so if I put that across the top, you'll see it catches on it. If I put it across the top there and drag it, it actually keeps it in place. So, I mean, that wasn't a fantastic example, but maybe I can do it this way. So if my fingers are there and I'm, there we go. If I move forward, you'll see, there we go, it actually does hit that. So if you're the type of person that actually types that way, this might be an issue for you. Now, moving down a row, of course, is not an issue, but you're going to have that sort of bump up-down sensation. But moving up, on every row, including from 5 to 4, you will actually encounter that. Is it a big deal? For me, no, because I lift quite high when I type. I have enough clearance in my activity that it's not an issue. My fingers actually float above the keys when I type. I don't rest and type. But if you rest and you slide to type, it's going to be something that you'll have to decide whether your style will accommodate that, or you'll just get accustomed to lifting and getting a little bit more clearance. So there you have it. Now, I did say that I'll do a sound test on it, but like I said, because these are 3D printed keycaps, I don't know if these are ABS or PLA. They feel like they're PLA, not ABS keycaps. So the actual material itself is inherently different. Because they're 3D printed, they're going to sound potentially different because the density of the plastic might be different, as well as having little air pockets within it when it's being layered or sintered, depending on its manufacturing process. So here we go. Let's just drop down the microphone and do a bit of key bashing. So that was a bit of a audio mess, I suppose. Now, none of these have had any O-rings put on them, because obviously it wouldn't make any difference whatsoever, because once again, they're not going to be representative in material rather than just in shape and feel. So to summarize my experience with these, I like them. They're nice and low. They feel great. They support the fingers. They're not at all weird or uncomfortable, to the point where I will actually say that they're comfortable to type on. The slightly shorter height does not impact my ability to type or my typing speed. There's no travel related issues that I can tell or feel on using these, and they actually look pretty normal, pretty great. They don't have like a glaring strangeness about them at all. So I'm very happy on the translation between a graphical representation that we saw on the Kickstarter, as well as all the other pictures, to having these in hand. Now, as I'm recording this today, which I'm going to be releasing pretty soon anyway, there was a mini meetup in Sydney, but I didn't actually end up going. They're actually meeting up right now in Chinatown. because I had to take my wife and daughter to a play date somewhere else, and I was just being lazy. A week of being not well and having to go to work because I had some work-related things I still had to deal with. I just was like, I didn't want travel for an hour to get into the city and an hour back. So sorry guys for those who were not able to try out this set. Now Evan has said that I can take a while to play with these, and so if there's more opportunities, especially people are willing to travel out west to where I am to check them out, then of course let me know and we'll see if we can tee something up. So once again, I want to say thank you to Evan from the Van Keyboards for shipping me these prototypes to test and see the reality of these keycaps. And of course, I want to say thank you to everybody who is checking out this video and your support for both the keycap set and our video channel. Now, we're over 1,700 subscribers right now. It's still quite a while away at 2,000, but at 2,000 subscribers, we will have a giveaway for the 2 COS caps that I reviewed a while ago. So of course, if you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. If you are a subscriber, hit like, hit share, get as much love out there so that we can have more people join our channel, get involved in our community, and of course, that giveaway. If you want to get involved in our Slack channel, send me an email to theboardpodcast@gmail.com and I'll be able to shoot you an invite. You can hang out with all of the other people who like our podcast, like our YouTube channel, and talk keyboards as well as anything else out there in the randomness of this world. So once again, thanks for checking out the video, and of course, as always, until next time, happy clacking.